You're dead. Your skin boiled at 750 degrees Fahrenheit, and you no longer feel pain, not a single cell. The end. You didn't even have time to realize you'd stepped onto the surface of hell. Fire evaporated oceans, the sky burned, the atmosphere pressed down like a vice. There's no air, zero oxygen. One breath, and your lungs are corroded by sulfuric acid dripping from the clouds like battery rain. You would have suffocated in 3 seconds, but you didn't suffocate. You were torn apart from the inside first. Radiation from the sun pierced you like a microwave cooking a chicken. Your DNA is now ash. Your brain is a charred potato. Look here. Shot. Camera zooms sharply into an eye, boiling under the eyelids. Your eye. It can't withstand the ultraviolet. No ozone layer, no protection. The light slices your cornea like a laser cutter through glass. You're blind, but you don't feel it, because nerve impulses don't reach. The nerves are dead. You think that's all? No. Meteors are falling from the sky, not one, thousands. Every 5 minutes an explosion like a thermonuclear bomb. City-sized rocks crash into the earth, and the ground quivers like jelly. The shockwave obliterates everything, including you. Even if you were in a spacesuit, you'd be crushed like a can in a press. You wouldn't have survived. You wouldn't have survived even in a bunker. The surface temperature is like a brick kiln. Your skeleton is glowing charcoal. Your bones are melting. Remember this moment. You are human, warm-blooded, oxygen-dependent, delicate. You grew up in a world where everything is tailored for you. But here, nothing is tailored. There are no rules here. This is chaos. Imagine you stand, and immediately, flames, and immediately, death. You are not a hero. You are not a martyr. You are a mistake. You shouldn't have appeared here. You are a product of a later time, a time when the fire subsided, when oxygen appeared, when the atmosphere became a shield. But back then, there was no shield. There was only impact, and you, to zero. You stand. The sky flashes, thousands of times brighter than the sun. The temperature is 10,000 degrees Celsius. You no longer see. You no longer breathe. You no longer exist. But the explosion hasn't even reached you yet. Every 15 minutes, a new flash. Every 15 minutes, an impact with the force of 15 kilotons of TNT. You don't even have time to fall. The next one is already on its way. 20,000 impacts a year. You wouldn't have survived even in a bunker 200 meters deep. The pressure wave, 1,000 kilopascals. Walls evaporate. Rock flows like water. The horizon explodes. Oceans boil. Steam and dust to stratospheric heights. You're not at the epicenter. You're everywhere. Because the epicenter is the entire planet. Look here. Shot. View from orbit. Earth engulfed in fire, as if reborn. This is not a catastrophe. This is a schedule. This was the late heavy bombardment period. The solar system had not yet cleared the debris after construction. Planets were forming, colliding, breaking apart. Thousands of protoplanets circled in orbits like knives in a blender. Earth, a magnet. It attracted 10 times more than the moon. Scientists counted craters on the moon. Every scar, a date. Every crater, energy. Compared. Calculated. Got hell. Earth took 1,000 impacts a year, each with enough force to blow the atmosphere into space. Each with a temperature that melted the crust kilometers deep. Do you think this is an exaggeration? No. The energy of this period, 10 to the 23rd power joules per year. 1,000,000 times more than all earthquakes today. 1,000 times more than all the energy humanity has ever produced. This is not a storm. This is the weather itself. Shot. Camera falls through ash clouds, sees the surface, an ocean of molten silicate. You don't see an ocean. You see lava. You don't see the sky. You see fire. You don't see a future, because there isn't one. No oxygen, no shield, no chance. The atmosphere, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, steam, hydrogen sulfide. One breath, and your lungs turn to acid. One breath, and you evaporate from the inside. You are human. You need oxygen. You die in 3 seconds without it. But here, there was no oxygen. It hadn't been created yet. It hadn't been released yet. It wasn't yet in nature. You wouldn't have survived. You wouldn't have survived even in a futuristic spacesuit. You wouldn't have survived if you were teleported here for a second. You would die in one flash, in one breath, in one ray. Remember, you are not a hero of antiquity. You are the result of silence. You are a child of calm. You were born when the bombardment ended, when the sky stopped falling, when the fire left. But back then, fire was everything, and you, nothing. You raise your face to the sun, and immediately, a rupture inside. Not pain, not burning, disintegration. Molecules are torn apart. DNA, like paper in flames. Bonds break. Proteins denature. Energy in cells extinguishes. Your skin blisters, but it no longer matters. You are not human. You are disintegration in real time. The sun here does not shine. It cuts. UVC rays, 100 nanometers, strike unfiltered. This is not sunburn. This is chemical annihilation. You are not tanning. You are decomposing alive. Look here. Shot. A beam of light penetrates the skin, tearing apart a DNA helix. This is not radiation. This is an internal explosion. You don't feel yourself being torn apart from the inside, but you feel yourself ceasing to be yourself. There is no magnetic field. It hasn't turned on yet. The core, liquid but not moving. There is no convection. The planet's dynamo is off. The solar wind strikes directly, 400 kilometers per second. Charged particles crash into the atmosphere like bullets. They strip molecules into space. They hit you. You are not in a spacesuit. You are naked. You are a conductor for the solar killer. There is no ozone layer, no oxygen, no ozone, no protection. UVC passes through the atmosphere like a knife through butter. The intensity, 100 times higher than at the equator today. 1 minute on the surface, death for any DNA. You wouldn't have survived even with chemical armor. Rays penetrate through metal, penetrate into bone, tear apart the brain. And here, the proof. Shot. Ancient rock with distorted magnetic traces. Traces in rocks 3.5 billion years old. They show the magnetic field was weak, almost zero. Earth did not reflect the sun. Earth absorbed it. It lay naked under a stream of particles, without a shield, without protection, without a chance. Do you think you would have survived in a bunker? No. Radiation penetrates kilometers deep. Rock does not save. Water does not filter. Your flesh turns into debris. Mitochondria burst. Cell nuclei die. You don't die. You cease to be alive. Look here. Shot. A person dissolves under light, like salt in water. You are not a hero. You are an error in the code. You are a bug in a system where there should be no life. But then, there was no life. Because the sun burned everything. Because the planet didn't know how to protect itself. Because you are too soft, too fragile, too late. You survived only because you were born later, when the shield stood up, when the field activated, when ozone formed. But then, there was nothing. There was only light, and death in every one of its waves. You inhale, and immediately, chemical warfare. Methane paralyzes your brain. It blocks neurons. Signals don't pass. Your muscles, dead weight. Ammonia tears your throat. Mucous membranes ignite like paper in acid. You feel your bronchi turn into scorched tubes. Sulfur dioxide burns your lungs. It mixes with moisture and creates sulfurous acid. Drop by drop, you breathe poison that eats you from the inside. Carbon dioxide presses on your heart. Arteries constrict. Your brain screams, oxygen. But it's not there. You suffocate, even though there's plenty of air. You can't exhale. You can't stop it. You don't die from lack. You die from an overdose of toxins. One breath, and you're no longer human. One breath, and you're a chemical corpse. Look here. Shot. Lungs covered in blisters like boiled skin. More air. But it's not air. It's death in gaseous form. 4 billion years ago, the atmosphere wasn't for life. It was for synthesis. There was no oxygen, not even traces. Today, 21%. Then, 1,000th. Because oxygen wasn't born in the sky. It was born in cells. It's a waste product of photosynthesis, a byproduct of ancient bacteria. And they weren't there yet. There were no green seas, no forests, no breathing. There were volcanoes. They tore the earth and spat out gases: methane, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, water vapor, carbon dioxide. This isn't air. This is a recipe, exactly like in the Miller-Urey experiment. Scientists took these gases, added a spark, and got amino acids, the building blocks of life. That's what it was. Not an atmosphere, a laboratory, a chemical cocktail that kills humans but gives birth to molecules. For you, death. For the universe, a beginning. You wouldn't have survived. You wouldn't have survived even with a filter. You wouldn't have survived if you held your breath. Because toxins penetrate through the skin, through the eyes, through the pores. You don't breathe, but you're already dead. You're organic matter in a test tube, and the test tube is the entire planet. Look here. Shot, lightning in a flask, where dark liquid boils. This is not nature. This is a reaction. You are not a hero. You are sediment. You are an error in an equation where life has not yet been solved. But then, chemistry was being solved. Without rules, without mercy, without oxygen. You stepped and immediately fell through, not into a pit, into lava. Your foot touches the surface and immediately melts like a wire in an outlet. 400 degrees. 800. In places, 1,000. You are not standing. You are burning. Your shoes, evaporated. Your feet, charcoal. You fall into a crack and see magma crawling towards you like molten oil. This is not Earth. This is a furnace. And you are inside. Look here. Shot. A foot in a boot submerges into lava. The boot melts like wax. You find no footing. Beneath you, a thin crust, the thickness of a house. It cracks under the weight of a raindrop. And you are heavier. You fall into the mantle. You don't fall. You are absorbed. Volcanoes erupt everywhere. Not one. 7,000. Every 10 seconds, a new fountain of fire. Lava flows worldwide, like rivers of molten iron. You cannot run. You cannot stand. You cannot live. You can only burn. Do you think this is heat? No. This is warmth. It is alive. It breathes. It comes from within. The planet was forming, and every impact added fire. You don't see meteors. You feel them. Each like an atomic explosion. Thousands a year. Billions of tons of energy. The earth contracted, melted, boiled. Inside, 6,000 degrees. The core, a cauldron. Uranium, thorium, potassium burn like coals. Their decay melts the mantle. Pressure, hundreds of megapascals. Magma bursts out. Every crack, a geyser of hell. Tectonics hadn't been born yet, but volcanoes already ruled. This is not a surface. This is a crust on boiling soup, and you are on it. You are not a hero. You are dinner. Look here. Shot. Overhead view. Earth cracked. Fire erupting from the fissures like from skin seams. You wouldn't have survived in a spacesuit. Metal melts at 1,500 degrees. Here, 1,200. You wouldn't have survived underwater. There is no water. Oceans, steam in the atmosphere. You wouldn't have survived on a mountaintop. There are no mountains. There are only volcanoes. You wouldn't have survived in the shade. There is no shade. The sun cuts, lava glows, fire from all sides. You are human. You need a place to stand. Here, there is nowhere. You cannot breathe. You cannot stand. You cannot exist. You can only disappear. In lava. In heat. In nothingness. You don't see an ocean. You see steam. You see an explosion. You see boiling chaos where water doesn't pour. It shoots into the sky like from a cannon. Fire evaporated oceans. Not gradually. Instantly. Every meteor impact, like a thermonuclear cauldron under the sea. Water didn't have time to turn into steam. It disintegrated into oxygen and hydrogen. You wouldn't have swum. you would have exploded. In your lungs, plasma. In your eyes, vacuum. You didn't drown. You evaporated. Look here. Shot. Meteor impact. Water explodes in a column into the stratosphere. This is not a flood. This is disintegration. The planet was losing water into space. Molecules were torn apart by the solar wind. You thought water was the basis of life? Here it's part of the killing. You couldn't drink. You couldn't breathe. You couldn't even touch a drop. It would burn you like acid. But this is where it gets interesting. Life didn't wait. It didn't wait for the crust to cool. It didn't wait for the radiation to disappear. It didn't wait for oxygen to appear. It was born in boiling steam, in cracks where water mixed with sulfur, iron, methane, where temperature changed. In seconds, where pressure tore molecules apart and glued them back together. This is not a lake. This is a reactor. Every crack, a test tube. Every splash, an experiment. You wouldn't have survived. But something else began. Not a cell, not DNA, not a protein. Something simpler, something that could copy itself. A molecule that, encountering chaos, did not collapse, but repeated itself. One chance in a billion. But billions of chances per second. You don't see it. But in the steam, in the lava, in the acid, something clicks. Like a lock, like a code, like the first byte of information. Look here. Shot. Bubbles in a boiling geyser. Symmetrical structures inside. This is not nature. This is programming. Life was not born in silence. It was born in noise, in error, in system failure. And what follows is not a story of survival. It is a hack of matter. You don't see it. But in the crack where sulfur boils, where pressure tears molecules apart, something clicks. Not a cell, not an eye, not a mouth. A molecule that learns to breathe poison. It doesn't want to live. It just repeats itself. It clings to light like a thief to a wire, and steals energy. A photon hits, and a reaction clicks inside. It splits water, extracts hydrogen, and expels the remainder. Oxygen. This is not air. This is waste. This is an error. This is murder. It exhaled the poison that became your air. It doesn't know what it's doing. It just works, like a virus in a system that rewrites the code. Do you think oxygen is a gift? No. It's a chemical weapon. It killed everything that couldn't use it. Anaerobes died in seconds. Their metabolism snapped like a wire under tension. The planet became a graveyard and a laboratory. Look here. Shot. Green spots on black rock. Gas bubbling from them. This is not a plant. This is a bomb. Billions of such spots all over the world. They are not green. They are black. They are gray. They are microscopic. But their breath changes the atmosphere. Year after year. A million years. A drop of oxygen. Another million. The ocean becomes poisonous. Another million. The sky begins to burn because ozone gathers under ultraviolet. This is not evolution. This is a hack. They didn't survive. They conquered. They poisoned the planet and created conditions for you. You wouldn't have survived in their world. You wouldn't have survived in your world without them. You are the result of the catastrophe they orchestrated. Look here. Shot. A molecule like a gear, rotating under light. This is not nature. This is a machine. The simplest, without a brain, without a heart, but with an algorithm. Light, energy, copy, expel poison. It doesn't think. It executes and changes the universe. You breathe this poison. Your cells feed on it. Your heart beats because of it. You are dependent on a killer. You are a product of poisoning. Look here. Shot. Earth in flames, but at the edges, a blue tint of the atmosphere. This is not the end of hell. This is its reboot. The first hack of the biosphere. It didn't save life. It created new life. And in it, you wake up. No, you don't wake up. You appear. The air, not poison. The sky, not a saw. The earth, not lava. You stand, and you don't burn. The magnetic shield rose 3.5 billion years ago. It didn't collapse. Under the onslaught of the solar wind. It holds. It reflects. It keeps death from the sky. Shot, northern lights, but not as light, as a barrier reflecting a stream of particles, the ozone layer, made of oxygen, from waste, from poison. It catches ultraviolet like a net catches knives. You are not blind. You are not melting. You breathe. Oceans, not steam. They are liquid, stable. You can fall into the water, and not explode. You can swim. You can live. Oxygen grows, not in milligrams, in tons, century after century. Cyanobacteria, black spots on rocks, don't stop. They don't think. They don't regret. They work. Light, water, hydrogen, plus oxygen. They exhale weapons and kill everything that cannot use it. Anaerobes die. Their world ends. The planet reboots. You breathe this. You can't live without it. Your cells burn oxygen like fuel. Your energy, from an explosion, from oxidation, from what killed others. Here it is, the great oxidation event. Not a slow change, not evolution, a big bang of life. They exploded the atmosphere, changed the chemistry, created a new reality. You wouldn't have survived in the old one. You can't survive in the old one. You are a product of the new. Look here. Shot, Earth in blue light, with an ozone layer like a shield. You are not saved from hell. You are raised in it. Fire, radiation, acid did not hinder. They accelerated. They selected. They forged. You didn't appear despite chaos. You appeared because chaos existed, because someone exhaled poison, because someone survived in a boiling geyser, because someone learned to steal energy from light. You are not an exception. You are the outcome. You are the next step after the murder of a world. You are a child of revolution, and your first breath is their last exhale. Do you think you were lucky? No. You are here because hell was perfect. Imagine fire, acid, radiation. This is not an obstacle. This is an instruction. Without it, you wouldn't exist. You wouldn't have survived in paradise. You survived because there was no paradise. Look here. Shot, view from space. Earth glowing like coal in a fire. This is not a catastrophe. This is a launch. You are not an accident. You are an inevitable result. Without 4 billion years of hell, no you. You are not a son of silence. You are a child of explosion. You are code assembled from errors. You are a consequence, not a cause. Everything that killed, built. Radiation tore DNA and created new combinations. Acid burned molecules and pushed new ones to the surface. Fire melted the crust and extruded chemistry that wasn't in space. Pressure compressed water and activated reactions impossible under normal conditions. You don't resist chaos. You are its product. You are what remains when everything is broken. Look here. Shot, microscopic view, a molecule assembles itself in boiling water. This is not luck. This is inevitability. In the conditions of hell, life cannot but appear. Because hell is not destruction, it is the reboot of matter. Do you think life is fragile? No, it is the most resilient form of chaos. It doesn't survive despite. It appears because. You cannot imagine what it's like to be a molecule in a boiling geyser. But you can feel it. Your heart beats. Your palms sweat. This is not fear. This is memory. You remember. Not with your brain, with your cells. In every one of your veins, traces of that time. You are a living archive of hell. Look here. Shot. A person breathes, and for a moment, green dots flash in their lungs. Every breath is an act of betrayal. You breathe oxygen that killed billions. You are alive because someone died. You copy DNA that the solar wind assembled. You exist because the planet burned. You didn't conquer nature. You are its error that it didn't notice. And here it is, working, in you. Do you think you are unique? Yes, but not because you are smart. Because you are the first to survive in a system designed for killing. You are not a hero. You are a leak. You are a bug that became a feature. You are a hack that continues. Look here. Shot. Earth covered in ice. But beneath the ice, fire and movement. This is not the end. This is a cycle. Someday everything will start again, and you will not survive. But something else will emerge. Because hell is not an exception. It's the default mode. Life doesn't appear in comfort. It's born when everything is broken. Do you believe that life can only arise in hell? Yes or no? Write in the comments.